Okay, let's talk about your worthiness, your lovability, how to understand why you see yourself as inadequate, how to see yourself as more as the honorable human being that Allah created you to be, and understanding why it fluctuates. And I'm just gonna really dig into that and talk more about that because like I mentioned in most of my videos, your self-concept, the way you see yourself, impacts the way you show up in relationships, impacts who you attract, impacts who you allow in your life, and just all of this stuff. Okay, so we gotta really break it down, and I'll keep making videos on this until it's really stuck in all of our subconscious minds, inshallah. Okay, so let's understand worthiness. Okay, so growing up, we are kind of taught from a society perspective of what's worthy and what's not, what's more valuable and what's not as a human being. And it's a lot of society, a lot of like we were colonized, obviously, so the way we think is not Islamic. The way we interpret the value of a human being comes from a very secular, colonized way of thinking, and as an example, right? The way the secular mind thinks is more of like we're just a brain and a body, and we just have a bunch of thoughts, and that's it. Like that's what a human being is, just like a brain with thoughts. And that's the kind of the psychology in a secular way. So they focus a lot on just the brain. And so when we look at ourselves, and that's the way we see ourselves, we're just a brain with a bunch of negative, messy thoughts and we're not confident the way we want to be all of that. We're not any different than an animal at that point because we're just a brain and a body, and animals kind of the same. They kind of describe us as mammals. However, from the Islamic perspective, Allah has honored us. We are a human body with a soul that Allah has gifted us. We're not just our head. We're not just our brain. We're much more than that. We're a soul. We you matter on a deep, deep level. And so when all of that is kind of pushed out of the picture and you only see yourself as all your thoughts and your failures, of course you're going to see yourself as not good enough and inadequate. You're going to think you're something deeply wrong with you because you're comparing yourself to what society has told you is important, is valuable, is worthy. And so when your whole worldview is that's what you think it is, it's going to be very hard to see yourself as valuable and worthy, which is why when you try to have moments where you're feel confident, feel worthy, the next like Instagram picture you see of someone who's married, immediately your confidence drops. Why? Because the programming of like, oh, I'm only worthy if I'm married kicks in, and then it kind of goes back into that cycle where you're inadequate and unworthy. Okay. So just that was just kind of like a quick summary of like the way we think in terms of like the secular colonized way of thinking versus the Islamic worldview, which is we are much, much, much more than just a body, okay? Or like a brain. Okay. لقد كرمنا بني آدم. So Allah like honored us in the highest of ways. It is actually a sin to look down on yourself in a way that like you belittle what Allah has created you to be. You're not supposed to belittle that. People think it's an honorable, noble thing to like think less of themselves. It's not. Like you're not doing anyone a favor by like thinking less of yourself. So just I just wanted to give a background on the secular like worldview and that just so that you understand that it's not your fault for thinking you're inadequate. Of course you do. Of course, like there's a $1 trillion industries out there, like, all the beauty industry and everything just wired to make people think that you're not valuable unless you have these certain things. So of course, right? That's why there's a reason why you feel inadequate. Now, to the next step of this is to understand, okay, oh, I understand why I feel inadequate because I was born with all these like this programming of what it means to be valuable and worthy. Now, you as an adult watching this, you have to define for yourself And you have to choose for yourself, what does it mean for a human to be valuable? And you have to use your actual logical, critical thinking to you agree logically, but also subconsciously how to get yourself on board. Now, what does this mean? What makes a human being valuable? Okay. So if we factually look at who you are, Allah has given you a soul, right? If you imagine, like I like to imagine like a big ball of light in the middle of my body. This is your soul. And the body that you have is the container that Allah has gifted you, a temporary home for your soul, for this temporary life. And all of it is worthy because Allah has created it. All of it, including the messiness, including the faults and the stuff that you really don't like. All of it is part of the creation that Allah has given you. Now, the more time we spend shaming who we are, the less capacity we have to actually feel good and grateful about what we have. Because your brain's too busy looking for what's wrong with you. And the reason it's looking for what's wrong with you is because our brains are wired to look for problems. So that's not necessarily the issue. And on top of that, the whole programming from the colonization, all that does not help. But you right now, we have to decide at this very second that all you are is you're a human body with a soul, and all of it is worthy and 100% worthy, and it's not up to you for you to decide whether it's worthy or not. Oh, but Lemma, I'm not this, I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not, I didn't graduate here, I don't have this degree, I'm not married yet. That none of that, God doesn't care about that. Because he has no interest in what you've accomplished. That is more of the Western world that makes you valuable based off of what you've accomplished. That's not what we're here for. We're here to be tested in how we interact with the blessings we're given. Oh, Lemma, I know I should be more grateful. This stop. Okay. Okay. Low focus on what you have. Okay. I am, you are, everyone has a body and a soul. You're 100% worthy. And just because you're 100% worthy doesn't mean everyone will have the capacity to like you. That's number one. Okay. So there will be people that look at you and think you're not worthy. That's a given. There will be people, because we live in a society that has a bunch of messed up programming, that look at you and think, oh, you're single, that means you're not worthy. Oh, you're this shape, this size, this, that, oh, you're not worthy. They will do that. Now you have two options. You can double down on understanding who Allah created you to be, why Allah created you, and how you want to think of yourself. Or you can, option two is to go along with what people think of you and just live a very miserable life, which is just at the mercy of what people think of you and hoping to God that no one thinks negative things about you. I promise you, people will think negative things about you, and you just either learn how to not agree with them or let them be right about you and move on with your life, and you decide that no, that I am actually a worthy creation of Allah, even if people think less than me. Okay. So this is the step where, okay, so I'm gonna kind of walk you through this, okay? My brain, let's say my brain's telling me all these reasons of why I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not good enough because I'm not married, because no one picked me yet. Let's just say that's one reason. Okay, so now we talk back to that one thought. Is it true that my worthiness depends on whether or not I'm married? And where did this come from? And do I agree with it? As a Muslim, do I agree with it? Is it coming from Islam? Is it coming from what God wants us to think? Yes or no? And you have to slow it down and really answer it. And whatever comes up, you have to answer it. Oh, No, that's not what Allah wants me to feel about myself. But that auntie always questions me about why I'm single. Okay, good for her. She can do what she wants because what if she's projecting her own fears and her own logic onto you, that's not your business. That's her way of thinking, and you have your way of thinking. This is why, as an adult, we have to reprogram what we think is a priority and what we think is true versus what is not true. Because otherwise, if you don't decide that, you're gonna go based off of whatever other people say. And so your truth is what is your truth? Who are you? I am a creation of Allah and I am a messy human being and I'm lovable no matter what because Allah isn't conditional and petty about how to be lovable. He loves you right now as you are with the messiness that you're thinking of, all of it. Even if you're thinking like I'm too messy and I barely pray and all this, Allah loves you because He has put you intentionally in this world for a very specific reason and Allah doesn't mess up like that. He doesn't make mistakes. So you're important and you matter. And so now what do we do with that? You have two options here. Many people choose to kind of indulge in the self-pityness and constantly shame themselves till the end of time, which is Shaitan is winning at doing that. It's his favorite job. Or you can decide I'm actually worthy. And the next time someone reminds me that I'm not worthy, they're allowed to think that. I know I'm worthy. If someone doesn't like me, that doesn't take away from me being less lovable. Okay? It's very you get to decide whether you are lovable or not from your own perspective of how you see yourself. The truth is you already are 100%. You can't mess with that. You can't mess with the value of that because you can't mess with Allah's creation. You don't have any say in that. You don't have a say in who you are and what you do, but you do have a say in how you see yourself, how you choose to see yourself. That's the self-concept stuff I always talk about because self-concept impacts everything in your life, literally everything. Your body image, your self-image, the way you see yourself, um the way you even interact with other people. So anyway, back to the point. Um you are a worthy creation of Allah, and now you get to decide what is true and what is not true. And what you think is true that makes you less valuable, that is from Shaitan. And when I say Shaitan, it's probably the colonization that we went through, right? But it's shaitanic to make you feel like you are nothing, that you are this like thing that like is really flawed and unlovable. That's not, no, that's not who you are. So how do we work on this? How do we show your brain that you are actually a worthy creation of Allah? You write down the thing that feels true to you and you practice it until your brain's like, all right, I get it. Like we really believe it now. Okay. So I have many like sticky notes all over like my desk and stuff to remind me of what I want to believe next. I'm always working on my beliefs. I'm always changing the way I think because that's how you program your brain. All you have to do is practice it. You wake up and you think instead of thinking, "Oh, here we go. I'm such a messy human being that's like not worthy," to I'm a creation of Allah. Or if that one doesn't fit or doesn't feel good to you, find a thought that feels good to you, that feels believable. Okay? You don't want to go from I'm not good enough to I'm a beautiful queen because that you won't believe that one. You want to believe something that's more neutral, factual. So find what's factual to you. I'm a human being. I'm, and then you can go from I'm a human being to I'm an honorable human being because Allah honored me. And you kind of gradually need to go up from there. But the main thing here is you can't mess with your worthiness. Even if you're not on board and you never believe it, you still are worthy whether you like it or not. And I know there's a part of us that likes to punish yourself for not meeting the standards of society and not being enough the way that you want, but all you're doing is like hurting yourself and it's not serving anyone. So your work, and this is, by the way, when clients come to me and they say, okay, I have to like really look for a spouse now. I'm like, no, we're not doing anything until we build this foundation. This foundation of like, like as yeah, single, whatever your status is, I'm worthy as I am. Allah loves me deeply. What does that do? It creates the capacity to learn how to love yourself, which in return creates much you have the ability to love other people much more and love them because of you accept them as they are, not because of this fantasy version of what you think they should be. The more you accept yourself, the more flexible and open you are with loving human beings and understanding them, which is a very important, extremely important skill in marriage. But if you're very conditional in your love with yourself, you're going to be very conditional with your love with other people. Just going to put that out there. All right. Um, inshallah, I am leaving to Umrah. So whoever is going to Umrah, I know a lot of American groups are going to Umrah, so maybe I might see you there. But if you are, shoot me a message on Instagram and maybe we'll run into each other. Or if you do see me, if we see each other somehow, just that would be exciting. Anyways, all right, inshallah, I'll see you probably in a week or two. And Assalamu alaikum.